During the Second World War, tanks varied in shapes and sizes. This would see huge steps in tank designs, allowing for some of the most incredible weapons of war. But right at the start of the conflict, the British would produce something you've perhaps never heard of. Although this looks like something from the First World War, this footage is actually from 1940, and what's more, this strange tank would be Britain's largest tank of the war. In today's video, we look at the TOG, the forgotten British tank of World War II. If you enjoy this video and want to see more, hit that subscribe button. It's free and really helps the channel reach more history lovers like you. The British tanks of the First World War saw battle across the Western Front. These steel beasts would overcome obstacles such as barbed wire, shell holes, and enemy trenches, allowing for infantry to gain the upper hand. So in 1939, leading up to the start of the Second World War, the British put together a team of tank specialists to design a more modern version for the impending conflict. This group of designers were responsible for the tanks of the Great War. They were given the nickname the Old Gang, and the subsequent tank designs referred to as TOG or TOG. The first of the prototypes, known as the TOG-1, was huge, weighing in at 80 tons and with a length of 10 meters or 30 feet. It was also 3 meters or 10 feet wide and the same length in height. Lessons from the First World War meant the frontal armour needed to be thick enough to stop heavy German fire, so 2.5 inches was chosen. A crew of 8 men would be squished into the tank, some of whom would be responsible for the main 75mm gun, and the others the 40mm secondary armament. Several machine guns would be arranged around the tank to allow for attacking infantry to be taken care of. The design was similar to that of a World War I British tank, with the tracks on either side fully exposed and running up over the top of the hull. Testing first took place in 1940, but would carry on for several more years, as the weight of the tank caused several issues. The drive to each of the tracks had further issues, having been changed from an electrical version to a hydraulic one. But in the meantime, a second version of the TOG was being created. Known as the TOG-2, this was also a British super heavy tank that had the same weight and specifications as the first version. However, the improvements were in several areas. The armour was ramped up to nearly 4.5 inches, and the main gun being a 76mm 17-pounder. The tracks were different to the TOG-1, taking a more modern approach by having the track path lower on the return. The tank was also designed in such a way to allow for a second turret towards the rear, as well as side sponsors to have smaller anti-tank guns affixed. Only 6 men were required to run the tank, and it featured a slightly improved engine. This version of the TOG was created in late 1940, but like its sister tank, it underwent numerous modifications to make it through testing. Changes to the suspension caused a delay, which meant it would only finally pass trials in mid-1943. But by this time it was clear from Germany's early movements across Europe in 1939 and 1940 that a static trench-style conflict was unlikely, especially as during this time the British were preoccupied with the fight in North Africa. A slow and heavy super tank like the TOG would either be way too slow to advance along the front or would be easily picked off by enemy aircraft. Ultimately, only one version of each TOG was created as a prototype, with some initial inquiries for a large order for the TOG-2 not being filled. The tank was simply not fit for the Second World War. It was far too heavy and far too slow. The British instead went for the much more versatile Churchill tank, which although still heavy with its thick armour, could at least keep up with friendly infantry. The TOG was unfortunately created in the wrong war. Who knows what it could have achieved in the First World War? But given only 2 were created, it's perhaps why it is the forgotten British tank of World War II. Have you ever heard of the British TOG tank? What did you think about it? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. As always guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that subscribe button if you want to expand your knowledge and join the growing Premier History community.